What is going on, YouTube? Dr. Ryan White here. So finally making the video, and this is about like pre-KvK. So what exactly you should be doing pretty much right now, because KvK was probably anywhere from 1 to 3 weeks away. You know, most likely more like that 2-week mark is probably the sweet spot. So here it is, right? I'm not even gonna waste no time in this video. So I'm gonna go over like what you should be doing with your buildings, resources, commanders, city defense, and then kind of just give you some tips along the way. So I think one thing that is overlooked, especially if you're going to do a lot of fighting, is the hospital. It's actually quite easy to ignore the hospital, especially if you're in a peaceful kingdom, because you're not doing any fighting. Your hospital doesn't fill up. So I would say it would be good. Like, you only have to get your hospital to 21 in order to get, level 25 City Hall. So what I would do is just upgrade all of them evenly. Like, if you were to get each one to 21, I would say that that's pretty reasonable for how expensive it is, because you don't want to actually blow all your resources when you're getting close to KvK, and you'll see why in a second. So like at 21 you get 50,000, so if you got that times 3, I mean that's 200,000 hospital. That's a full march that can go in your hospital, plus you'll get 50k siege back. So I mean it's a good little space, and then that actually will about double in KvK anyway. So if for like right now in KvK, if I got all of them at 21, I would probably be able to get the majority of my armies back, right? At least 120-ish K. Okay, so that's what I would do with the hospitals. And then like it does get pretty, I wish I could show you how much it costs to upgrade, but I have to wait a second. But it does get pretty expensive. So I would say, do it within reason, use your best judgment, try to follow the rules of thumb that I lay out here in a second. And then here's another thing that I think is important. It's not necessarily like you have to do this per se, but it'll help out a lot. So like when you're upgrading your troop buildings, you should never upgrade them and then let them sit to finish upgrading. You should always use speed ups. I don't care who you are. I don't care if you're the Willie as well to the poorest free to play, right? Don't even bother, upgrading it if you don't have the speed ups. And that'll actually help you get more troops, because when we get to KvK, a lot of the fighting doesn't happen until like the very end anyway. So you have quite a bit of time to train up some more troops, quite a few more days, right, to level up your commanders, train more troops. So I think a really good sweet spot is that level 23. And it doesn't have to be. I think you can get away with even a level 21 on everything, and I think like archery range, in order to get to City Hall 22, which a lot of people are at, is 21. If you get all these buildings to 21, you can train if you do 12-hour training intervals. So you train basically twice a day, 12-hour intervals. You could easily be able to train T4 around the clock. Trying to do events where you need the T2 might be a little bit more tricky if you're not trying to use speed ups. But you just have to check a little bit more frequently. But definitely, you're doing T4 easy, right? And that you should do that because with the upgrading and training around the clock, because it really does take quite a long time to get that full march. And the full march and exceeding that full march to replace some of your troops when they die is pretty critical. All right, so now that we went over the troop training, the next thing is the resources, because all this is expensive, right? I would say you need to save and you really need to get on a calculator and start doing the numbers and making sure you have this. A lot of people say, 100 million for each resource and then like 30 million gold or some bullshit like that. I don't even think you need that much, but the idea is that you won't run out if you have that much, unless you're doing like a crazy amount of fighting. I think most people are only dedicating, you know, 1 to 2 marches on the field at a time. So 100 million seems pretty reasonable, and you don't want to run your march into the ground, right? You like go back once you're like at like around half health, maybe a little bit less. You usually go back, right? You don't want to run your marches into the ground. That's bad because most of the severely injured comes from the last, half of the fight anyway, not really the beginning half. So that's what I would do, right? Save the 100 mil of each resource. Not you probably don't even need the 30 million gold. You can probably have way less gold, right? So I'm at about that. I'm monitoring pretty closely. So like this right here, if it's 500,000, right? 500K each one. So this is like 200, a little bit over 250, more like 260 million resources just sitting right here, right? So I'm pretty much covered on the resources end. All right. Um, Now I want to talk a little bit about the commanders, and you want to think about this in two ways. You need commanders that can get to a flag and live to tell a tale, and then you need commanders that's all in on the fighting, right? And I think if you think about it that way, managing the armies and figuring out what commanders to level up is a little bit more straightforward. And you have to have some pretty good discipline to do what I'm suggesting. Like you can't be trying to experiment and level up this one, level up that one. This one isn't. That's not. It's not really the time for that. That the time for doing stuff like that comes a little bit later. So, and then you're also trying to get your canyon team, but I'm not going to talk about that. Right? I'm going to kind of just isolate the KvK stuff right now. So, whatever, how many ever marches that you're dedicating to the field, that's your business, right? Whether it's 1, 2, 3, 4, I don't know. Most people it's probably going to be 1 or 2. For me, it's going to be 2. I'm going to dedicate a infantry march for sure. Sun Tzu is going to be the primary. That's why he's 60. And then I'm going to dedicate another, probably a calf march to catch people. So I can speed up and catch people. Minus Sal. I'm still working on Minamoto getting to 60. And he might not make it to 60. And I'm going to tell you something. So once you get to 50, you pretty much have the majority of the troops. So at level 50, you have a march of 195,000. So this is a little bit more than that. And then for each level after that, you only get 500 troops. So if let's say you did stop at 50, for example, you would only be missing out on 2.5% of your troops. Now you are missing out on 10 more. You're missing out on 10 more. What are they? Talent points, which could mean 10% of stats, or a really good you know uh, talent skill that you're missing out on. So I mean it's worth saying like level 60 is better, but I mean the majority of the cost, the upgrade cost with the XP is level 50 to 60, and the troop capacity isn't that much more. So this is what comes into play later. So for example, a lot of people probably aren't going to have like super badass archers, right? I know I'm not at first. I'll probably have YSG at 5511, maybe. I don't know, because I'm still trying to fill it out. But for sure, right, there might be a whale that does the archer rally. it's the best rally in KvK1. Somebody's probably going to do it. So somebody might have, let's say, a second. Somebody might have, let's say, they're doing ALC and YSG rally, really strong rally, right? All archers. I need to have a march that's probably archer focused, that can actually fight in the field, right? And I can bring troops to it. Like, it just makes sense. So I know it kind of seems like you're not really using archers like that, but eventually you will. And then, like, as you're traveling, you don't want to make yourself a target by having some bullshit, right? Like, you should be able to fight some. So I feel like if that's the thing you're going for, you just need to bring troops. Bring in 195,000 troops versus 200,000 troops really ain't that much of a difference if you're not trying to fight a lot. So I would say having like a Hermit or Kusunoki at 50 is pretty reasonable. You can still bring almost the max number of troops, right, to a rally, and I think that's pretty powerful. And then if you did decide to bring that third march and fight and fuck up some infantry, right, fuck up some infantry pretty hard, Hermit or Kusunoki seems reasonable. Even at 50, I think it's not ideal, but it's not terrible either. Like, we could be doing way worse. Okay. So 1 to 2 armies for most people. Level 60 primary is the goal, right? That's the goal to get to the, and then it has to be expertise. Don't come out with an unexpertise epic. That's just stupid. Okay. And then for city defense, like, it's as easy as this. Like, you can set up your garrison, right? You can have it ready. So let's say I'm running Sun Tzu. So when it's time to, I can't click this in. Ooh, no. Okay. So when it's time to like switch, right? I can switch to my city defense build. But here's the thing. If a whale comes at me with a 2 million, shit, even a 1.6 or a 1.5 million rally, I'm done. Shit, they can 1 million, I'm done, right? Like, unless I get reinforcements. So, like, you really don't want to take the rally anyway. You could set up the garrison captains, gear. It don't fucking matter. If you eat a rally, your city's done, 100% done. So the best defense really is, the peace shield. The peace shield. And then, like, if you go offline and you're in the front lines, like, 8 hours really isn't even enough. Like, you really, you really need that 24-hour peace shield. That's why most people say just teleport. Like, if you're gonna be offline for just a quick second, fine. Pop the 8-hour peace shield. You offline for a couple hours, you're gonna be back. That's cool. But overnight, you need to teleport back 100%. So, I mean, that's as simple as it is. And then, like, one thing that'll hurt you is, like, if you scout people, if you scout somebody, right, you'll get War Frenzy. And when you got War Frenzy, you can't pop a peace shield. And that lasts for like 15 minutes, I think, if you're City Hall 25. So, like, a lot of people make the mistake of, like, scouting the rally and scouting the person, scouting this, and then boom, you got War Frenzy. Now you can't pop a peace shield. You still can teleport away, but you have to do it before that rally makes contact with your city, right? So you got to be careful because somebody might sacrifice themselves, swarm you down before that rally hits just to keep you locked in, right? And then you can't teleport. Or they could imprison you too with the king skill, and then now you're stuck there and you have to take it. Like, you don't want to take that rally. Your account, as far as your troop power, it's done. 100. You listen. You will probably quit the game if you don't take that rally. And a lot of it is like just if everybody just survives this first KvK, even if we win or lose, if everybody just comes out and their account isn't wrecked, I would be happy. You know, even for our just as long as our accounts can let it tell a tale, you still encouraged to keep playing. But if you get that, man, that zero be that zero ain't nothing to fuck with. When you take that rally, KvK 1, forget it. KvK 2 and 3, shoot, you done. It's not really until you got millions of troops, right? I mean, really, literally millions, that it becomes like a little bit better. And you probably still don't want to take the rally. Avoid it at all costs. Super important. And like one thing that I will say is like, do what you're comfortable with. You know, if you're not a big hitter, and even me, I'm not a big hitter when it comes to like 8 other kingdoms. Like, I'm just a stronger player in the open field, but I'm not a big hitter. Like, if that ain't you, if you're not even like one of the stronger players, right? You know, like, just bring the one good march and just manage it really well. You know, run buffers, support. You don't hide it behind the Richard. Stuff like that. Like, that helps everyone else, especially players like me who, you know, are a little lighter on the battlefield stat wise compared to the whales. That helps us like really get that stat boost, that debuff on them, that stat boost to stay in the fight a lot longer. So, you know, a lot of people are concerned about doing the damage. So, like, what's a good pair? Like, for example, I've seen people do like a Sun Tzu Osmond, or better yet, like a Pelagius Osmond. I mean, insane damage. Like, for an epic pair, tons of damage, right? But like, if you're free to play, I mean, that's a combo you could theoretically do, but like, you won't do nearly as much damage if it was in my hands, for example. And you know, a whale probably has better options, but I mean, like, even if a whale did that, like, that's still just like tons of fucking damage. That doesn't really help somebody that's, you know, maybe 8 million power going into KvK 1, 9 million power. Like, it would make more sense to me if they ran something like, uh, say they got the RC, the Richard. They got Richard, and then they put like Joan behind it. Like, they're less likely to die, and then like they're doing something super important by buffing stats and giving like hella fucking rage, right, to the enemies. By the same token, even if you want to be a little bit more damage focused, like you can do the Sun Tzu Ethel, that's still mad supportiveness. That's something that I actually might do depending on the circumstances. I mean, but I kind of like the Richard tankiness, but I can see myself following it, because if nobody else is doing it, you know, and maybe I get Richard in a good spot and I'll do let's see, I don't know if it's worth. Doesn't really matter if I run mixed army or not. I mean, I could run a mixed army on Richard, Sun Tzu, full infantry, then run like Richard Joan, and then Sun Tzu Ethel Fly, like whatever. I'll be slower, but whatever, right? Just because those are really good support marches. That's how I would think about it, especially if you're lower tier. I really want to push the lower spenders and the free to play towards the Richard, the Ethelflaed, the Joan, and the Sun Tzu. You know, I think one thing that is interesting, if you want to play around, if you've been playing around with Jorn, like getting him expertise and running him with Sun Tzu could be pretty cool. I think that's really damage heavy, but I mean, I would honestly appreciate the skill damage increase. Like, this can be pretty savage to a team with, and in a fight, if we're doing like hella AOE and the buffing. You know, that's what I would like to see on the battlefield. I really, listen here. If I see Uh, you know, there's just certain stuff I don't want to see. I don't want to see somebody that's free to play using like a Martell. There's nothing wrong with him. It's just, like, what are you doing? Like, you're not trying to soak up damage, take on tons of people, deal damage back. Like, it's just, Charles Martell is like, I don't know why I'm talking about this. It's not KvK focus, but it's just like the ideology. Like, Charles Martell isn't as, he's tanky, but he's not as tanky as you think. He's like pokey. Like his job is kind of to do more damage. Like Richard's job screams, it's like support, real tankiness, like really tanky support, right? I push you towards Richard. Like Martell is like, I'm gonna get a whole bunch of people to attack me and do like fuck tons of damage back because like I got counter attack and like I got really good stats so I can take it and like I'm gonna increase the damage my secondary person does. Like I got the Charles E song, you know. Like that's what Martell screams to me. Not like, yeah, you know. And then like Richard is just easier to work with too because it's from the wheel. That's what I'm pushing you towards. I don't know why I even mention, but I think it's important. Like the ideology of how you need to be thinking about what you're bringing to the field. You know, and even me, I'm thinking about support. So that ought to tell you something. I'm 14 million and I'm still a baby. You know, with these some people in these other kingdoms, 60 million, might be 70 million. Like I can't fucking compete with that. Fuck that. I'm running. I probably wouldn't run, but I'm definitely hiding behind another whale. You know. All right. Pre-KvK. You're a Master Governor Alliance. Legion 3 for life, baby. Legion 3. Right? We're going to do our thing in the KvK. Make tons of videos about what we doing, what we up to. Shout outs. All that. See you in the next video. Master Governor style.